Hey everybody, Warren Buffett, the most successful investor of all time. Now, the guy is, the investing world standards, kind of eccentric. He lives in a house that he bought in the 1950s for about $59,000. That's today worth about $700,000, which is an expensive house, but it's considered like bizarre that a man who's one of the top five richest men on the planet would live in a house that's under $1 million. And another eccentric thing about Warren Buffett is that he never left his hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. And so I want to really talk about why he never left Omaha, Nebraska, and why I believe it's been a huge advantage for Berkshire Hathaway, and how this insight can actually help you in your investing. So for those who don't know, the few people who don't know, Warren Buffett is considered the greatest investor of all time. And in a world where 90% of stock market professionals cannot beat the S&P 500 over a 10-year period, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has been able to not only beat the S&P 500, but literally double its performance over the past 50 years with about a 25% compound interest rate over that entire time. And he has done that without moving his corporate headquarters from Omaha, Nebraska, which may sound counterintuitive because you're less far away from Wall Street, less far away from the big players and the insiders and being hooked in with information. However, Warren Buffett staying at his hometown is an advantage. So why isn't it an advantage? Well, if you look at Wall Street, a lot of people on Wall Street do hang out with each other, they socialize with each other, and obviously they begin to talk business with each other because finance and the world of investing, it's really a 24-hour business. And what happens in a lot of this sort of Wall Street social circles is that they begin to talk to each other about investments. It's very easy to be influenced if someone tells you, hey, this bank is going to be a big deal, you should invest, or check out my deal, I'm working on this deal. It's the same thing if you ever talk to people in investing forums. Someone may talk you into buying into a cryptocurrency, but here's the big problem. There's no real research behind it. You're just dealing with a hunch. You're almost dealing with social pressure. Warren Buffett uses the same methodology to buy all of his stocks, which is he reads through all the finances of a company without looking at the stock price. And then he'll value the company based on his own research. And if the number he comes up with is higher than the actual value of the company, then he will buy that stock or buy the company outright. And so by keeping himself isolated from the outside noise and information, he's able to use a system that he knows that works and just continue to work for it. He can scale up this concept without having to deal with outside people influencing him. Also, in Omaha, frankly, there are less temptations. When you become very, very rich and influential, there are people who kind of want to get into your social circle, whether it be, in a guy's world, women who want to, get into their lives, or people who want to maybe influence them in a bad way, whether it could be with drugs or leading an unhealthy lifestyle or partying and stuff. Warren Buffett really, when you look at Omaha, he hasn't had to deal with that, and that could really bring down a lot of people, even very disciplined people. You look at a lot of powerful people have been brought down by having affairs with women or being brought down by partying or drugs. By avoiding being in New York or LA or San Francisco, Warren Buffett has really been able to keep himself focused on his investments. Also, the cost of living is obviously much lower in Omaha than it is in New York, LA, and San Francisco. Now, that may sound ludicrous in the terms of someone with the wealth of Warren Buffett who could literally buy any house he wants. He's not really constrained by cost of living. But what can happen is if you're dealing with living in a place like New York or LA, you may become a little more distracted about having to buy a big fancy house because the other people have a big fancy house in Beverly Hills or Bel Air or Malibu. And now Mr. Buffett's focus would be on buying real estate. So to keep up appearances with all these wealthy people, or if he lived in New York, having to buy a penthouse in the latest big building, up on Central Park. He's not distracted about that. He's not deploying hundreds of millions of dollars dealing with that. he's basically, his house is his house, and I bet he's never really had to think too hard about real estate throughout his entire life, and that really saves not only a lot of money, just from a financial, but from a psychological standpoint. He doesn't have to worry about where he lives and keeping up appearances. So really, there's less pressure to spend money or to deal with power plays. Buffett has remained his own person while other people are trying to conform to some sort of image of what successful people are, and I think that ultimately becomes a disadvantage for them. You look at Wall Street, everybody's trying to imitate this sort of Gordon Gekko persona, and that could be just very expensive. Buffett, by isolating himself and doing the research, has been able to really outperform everyone else. So how can you apply this for your own life is basically follow Warren Buffett's example is really isolate yourself from the chatter, or better yet, you can listen to everybody, but don't be influenced by it. Always, have a system where you use a system like Warren Buffett, where you do all the research and price the company. If your price is higher than the actual price of the company, then you buy. That'll just make you better focused on opportunities. So by avoiding yourself being influenced by trends or the pressure to spend, you can really follow in Warren Buffett's example and be very, very successful. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.